once a person starts looking for something deeper, if they're honest, they're going to have to continue until they come to the end. The person's not going to embark on this path if they're basically happy and content with their lives. I think it takes a certain amount of feeling that, well, like the way I felt. I felt like, is this it? Is this all there is? There must be something more. What's really happening here? What am I really? Those kind of questions will drive us, I think, to seek something else, something, the reality behind the illusion, the truth. From a fairly early age, and I don't know exactly when, but I would say pre-teens, I had the feeling that the world that I was living in, the world that people told me that we were all living in, was somehow or another false. What I was seeing and what I was hearing and what people were saying was not actually what was really going on. In my early preteen years, I got interested, like age 12. I got interested in the church. I had the idea that with all these big buildings and these fancy clothes and all these altars and candles and stuff, there must be something big and important there. And I wanted to find out what it was. And after a few years of attending some churches and talking to some ministers, I realized that those people really did not know at all. So I became kind of an atheist and pursued more scientific interests, reading things like 1, 2, 3 Infinity, and reading works written about people like Einstein and general theory of relativity and special theory of relativity and things like that. I found those things interesting because they hinted at the reality behind the appearance. But the scientists, for all their knowledge, didn't really have anything to satisfy me either. All the fun of adolescence and growing up in America with all the distractions that were available, I just became kind of a normal teenager. I guess maybe age 23, 24, something like that. I had experimented with some psychedelic drugs, and I realized that if I changed the chemistry of my brain, the world looked different. And it didn't take me long to figure out that what I considered to be reality without the use of drugs was just the normal chemical makeup of the mind. It really wasn't reality at all. Is there a reality that can be perceived or understood? Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was in the news, and the Beatles had gone to his ashram in India, and there's a lot of talk, and he was on the Johnny Carson show. And for all his kind of ridiculous personality that was portrayed on that program, I heard him say some things that caught my attention, and I thought, well, here's a man who knows what the reality is. So I've determined that I would begin the practice of meditation, if not his, somebody else's. The big secret of the technique was that it was to be done without any effort, that it was supposed to be an effortless practice of thinking this mantra. But over the course of the next year and a half, there was this continual struggle with how do you practice this technique without any effort, and it seemed like a contradiction. I would periodically quit meditating because it was just so confusing and difficult for me, and then I would come back to it because I just couldn't drop it. And the opportunity came to go to India and become a teacher of meditation, go to India myself and go to the ashram and spend 3 months on the ashram meditating with Maharishi there and the whole thing. And I figured, gotta work. I sold my car and put my affairs in somebody else's hands and said, see you in 3-4 months, you know, and went to India. And I meditated a lot in India and heard Maharishi talk a lot in India. And I struggled for the whole 3 months with effortlessness and got it and forgot it and got it and forgot it and back and forth, but more got it than not. And I came back and I taught for a little while. And then I began to have a lot more confusion about effortlessness and everything else. Decided not to teach because I didn't feel I could teach what I really didn't understand and couldn't do myself. And for the next 18 years, I meditated on and off, and some effort, tried not to, you know, just couldn't quite do it. It was very frustrating. But I stayed with it more often than not. One day in the struggle, I just said, you know, 20 years of confusion and struggle with effortlessness is enough. And I just made a promise to, from that point on, not put any effort whatsoever into the practice of meditation. I was going to sit down and I was going to meditate, but I was not going to do anything. Lo and behold, the whole meditation just turned around, took off, became this great rewarding practice. Felt good, peaceful, indescribable. Now the meditation is effortless and is working fine, and my life started falling apart. I was descending into a pit, and I couldn't figure out what it was. While I was meditating, everything was great, and the rest of my life, I began to feel like a zombie. I felt like emotionally dead, emotionally cut off from everything. I remember feeling like a dead man walking around, like a corpse with a heart beating inside, walking around doing things. And after about a year of that, it became intolerable. I noticed that my brother, who had been doing the Adult Children of Alcoholics meetings for about 2 years, had changed. He seemed less preoccupied with his own unhappy life, you know. Because I was so desperate for something, I decided to start going to these meetings also. I think what was happening was the deep level of relaxation that I was getting from the meditation would allow the nervous system to start dumping a lot of stuff that had accumulated from childhood. And I had all my life had been taught to suppress any emotionally distressful things. I was emotionally shut down, emotionally repressed, and seething at the same time. I mean, the whole message was, talk about your feelings. Pay attention to feelings as a way of releasing them, which is what I'd been looking for. I mean, I was 49 years old at this point, and my anger at my father, I looked at it all and talked about it all and got over it in about a month. And then I realized I was angry at my mother. And after about another month, I got through all the anger at my mother, and that was gone. 2 really big issues in my life. A lot of anger. I'd been angry my whole life and didn't realize it. Now most of that anger was gone.